eyeliner be darned. You know, it's like, it's just, forget about it. And I feel like I've heard her sing probably 40 times over the years. She sings at Agape. She's one of our soloists at Agape. She has amazing original music. So again, let's just give Angel some love. I'm glad to be back at Soul Center. It's been 2 months. I was traveling in August. Took a little siesta, literally went down to Mexico. And I'm grateful to be back. This is like a second home to me. You guys keep letting me come back, so I'm grateful about that too. But today I'm really clear that what's up for me is the practice. And there's so much that goes on. I've been a part of the Agape community since 2005. I've been a practitioner now for 5 years. Almost a year ago, I joined the staff at Agape. For about a year and a half now, I've been in the ministerial program at Agape. So I'm very invested in terms of my life in this teaching. And so what I want to talk about today is an awareness that was new for me that really was prompted by a lot of what's going on in the world, and maybe not necessarily in the way that you think. There's so much that is trying to grab our attention. So many conversations are now being had about how much time we spend doing this, any number of things. Whether it's our cell phones and social media and texting and posting and videos. You know, we go to concerts and we videotape more of the concert sometimes than we actually watch the concert we pay money to go to. You know, there are some opportunities where people seem, when you would think that it was a sacred space or a very loving space, and it seems like people are more concerned with capturing it than being there. And I really want to invite you to just consider how you show up in any experience in life. And this is not necessarily about a judgment. This is about how do we get the most out of this life that we're living. So if you are in a business and you are running a business, you're always trying to figure out as a business owner, how do I get the most out of the resources that I have? How do I get the most out of the people that I have? How do I get the most out of the resources, the people, and what they're bringing forth into the market or into the medium? The same is true with the universe. The universe is consistently showing that it's shining, radiating, expressing, and bringing forth its highest and best on a continuous basis. Well, how do we know this? If you just look at nature, you're consistently shown a constant, consistent thing. Abundance. We live in an abundant universe, and you can't not find abundance. It shows up in so many ways. Trees could really be, all trees could look like that really sad tree on Charlie Brown that they have on their Christmas special. I mean, they don't need all of the leaves and all of them, and yet there are countless number of pine needles on every pine tree. Grass could be in any number of ways. You've driven down some of those streets where the grass just looks very different on one side, and across the street grass looks very different, but it's still all grass. And yet it can flourish, and you can look at it and you can see it in such abundance. Human beings are continuing to come into existence. There are plenty of people on the planet. And so there is a plenitude that we can see everywhere, especially here in Southern California. People just keep on coming. And as a native, I feel like, you know, sometimes a wall might be a good idea. That's about as close as we can get. And I'm talking about us, all of us. Because the traffic is more abundant than anything. What if instead of focusing on how long it's taking me to get somewhere, I'm just allowing myself to see abundance in traffic? It's like, oh, it might change the frequency that I show up at. And so my topic that came to me this week was center field awareness. And I started thinking about a lot of the conversations that I had been having. And I started thinking about a lot of the things that I was seeing going on in the world. And there was a consistent theme that came up. And it had everything to do with our focus. What was I focusing on? What was I putting my attention on? What was grabbing me all the time? And what impact was that which I grabbed having upon my life? Now, this is a spiritual teaching, but I want to be very clear. It is a lawful teaching. And so what does that mean? What does it mean, spiritual law? Well, when we think about the law, and we think about the law that's governing our cities, our towns, the laws that, we get a lot of the musical Hamilton is talking to us and singing to us about the whole time, that and his relationships, that's what they're singing to us about. And we have these laws that are prescriptive. They are the laws that we design for how we want our society to function. But when we look around at life in the world that we live in, we also have proscriptive laws. They tell us how the world how we do not want our world to operate and function. But when we talk about spirituality, we want to know really clearly that we're talking about mental science. We're not just talking about ideas that are airy-fairy. We're not just talking about ideas that are not provable. And here's the thing. I want to always consistently remember that there's a difference between having a great idea and having faith in some great idea than actually running something out and proving it as a science. So what does science always tell us? Science says that if I do something in the same way consistently, I'm going to get a consistent result. And so then from that consistent result, I know that something is. So if I'm going to apply that to gravity, or if I'm going to look at the things that are going on in the world, physics, if I'm looking at motion, a thing is always going to stay in motion. Einstein and all of our great scientists helped us to see these things. Well, the same thing is happening in terms of spirituality. And what I'm inviting us all to do is take it on. I'm asking us all to take it on in such a way that there aren't questions anymore about whether this is real or not. That there aren't questions in terms of whether or not we do this. And so here's what happened for me. Suddenly, I got inundated with people around me that had accepted, now this is you, it's just you, that suddenly the earth has become flat. So there are these consistent conversations of people who believe that the earth is flat. I know it doesn't seem funny and it doesn't seem outrageous, but it really kind of caught me off guard because the people who were talking about this, they were sincere, they were passionate, they were driven to learn more about it. They were exploring the idea and the concept, and the people in particular that I was having these conversations with are very good people in how they show up in the world. They're hardworking people, and I was flummoxed. I just was like, I don't know really what part of me to put into this idea that you have about this world you've been living on all of your life and all of the science classes that you ever took. And I was a science nerd. I loved science because instantly I knew at least a half dozen ways to actually prove through scientific demonstration why we know that the earth is not flat. Right. So I recognized within myself that suddenly I had a charge. Like, part of me was excited because I knew something. And it was like, the other part of me was frustrated that they didn't know something. And so all of this is happening inside of me. So I sat and I thought, and then, of course, I went to Uncle Google and I asked a bunch of questions just to make sure the ideas that I already was holding about the world that we live in were accurate. So I thought about, okay, well, they have all these questions that they don't seem to have the answers to, and I'm like, well, I know the answer to that. I can tell you why the sun does that, why the moon does that, but you can't tell me why there are phases of the moon based on your theory that doesn't work, and you can't tell me and explain to me the different hours of the day and why we have time zones because the sun is in the same position here in Australia, or isn't in the same position in here in Australia. It just was like, I was like, why am I? And then I just had to catch myself. I was like, why am I having this conversation? I indulging? And so I recognized that something had taken the center of my awareness. There was just a really clear idea that was at my center. But I allowed it to catapult me into something else. Because I wanted to know why I was so interested suddenly in making sure that what I knew to be so was so. And it really wasn't even about changing their mind. I just wanted to make sure the thing that I'm holding in my awareness is so. Have you ever had that experience where you're praying or you're tithing to your spiritual community, or you're engaged in work, or you're engaged in your relationship and you're sharing and interacting, and you want to make sure that how I'm interacting with this person is, this is actually what it is. This is a friendship, or this is a romantic relationship. I want to know if I'm investing in this business, you might be my supervisor or manager, and I'm putting in my time, I'm putting in my effort into this business. I want to make sure that what's happening, what I think is happening, I'm supposed to be growing in this business, I'm supposed to be growing in this opportunity, is what's actually happening. Have you ever had that experience? We kind of go through the world that way, right? I mean, there are plenty of times when we're binging and we want to unplug the energy of having to will or act or push something, right? We need a break. But in general, what we are doing with our lives is applying our energy. We're applying the force of our life towards the goals, the ideas, the creative expressions that we want to bring into expression. So now we need to do what I usually do, because I think we're in that little space. So let me hear it. If you have any agreement with me and what you're hearing, let me hear it. What do we do? All right, so let's wake it up a little bit, because we're doing this together. So what happened? In this conversation with these individuals, I suddenly got focused on something, and suddenly my mind right now is clearly aware of more science around this concept than my mind 45 days ago before the first discussion happened. Like, I consumed so much information just to check in, like, I am on a globe, right? Just to make sure I knew where I was living. I called a friend that was living on the other side of the country. I was like, go outside real quick. Is it light or is it dark? I didn't do that, but that's how I felt. Like I wasn't sure. But you're a spiritual being, and you're in a human incarnation. How do you know this? So how do we figure out that this teaching is true? How do we decide that the ideas that we have about God, about spirit, about the universe is an actual manifested expression of a real thing, and is not just some sort of fairy tale that got rolled over and expanded and continued to roll over and expand like a snowball, and nobody could stop it, and the people wanted to manipulate people and it just kept on going? How do we know that there's something more? It's our practice. So how many people in here have any kind of spiritual practice that they do on a sometimes almost once in a while basis? Hey, we got everybody! Right? So, now, how many of you have had a healthy eating lifestyle dietary guideline that you ever use once in a while, maybe sometimes ever, for just once in your lifetime? Anybody? Hey, we got everybody again. And how many of us have done things in our lives that we got results from and that we didn't? Let me just hear. You just kind of know when you got results. And how many of you are pretty clear on why you got those results? Yeah? How many of you are clear on why you didn't get the results that you wanted? Because you're always getting results, right? So that's the thing. No matter what you do, you're always getting a result. So here's the thing. What is at the center of your awareness whenever you engage in a practice? What is at the heart of how you are moving and living in this world? So again, part of what happened for me in this discussion with my friends was, yes, they're still my friends, it was exploring exactly how our universe came to be. Because what we know is that the ancient ones, our ancestors, had great realizations of God because they witnessed the miraculous in nature. And so they continued to write things down as They continued to talk about things and tell stories about the universe, and they started to see that there were some consistencies. And they started to see, how do I work with this world that I'm living in? And this world is consistently showing you spiritual truth if you will observe the natural unfoldment of the universe. It's consistent. So what do I mean? Why am I focusing on consistent? Because that's what we need to be. In our exploration, in our practice, in our unfoldment, in our interest. We have to develop the level of consistency to be able to prove anything else out. So it's easy for you to be afraid, to worry, to doubt things when you have not proved it to yourself in such a way that you can absolutely smack it off to the side. I'm so worried about, I had a friend post on Facebook the other day, and she just was like, why are we not pretending like we are not on the verge of nuclear war? And I was like, whoa, let's pull that back for a minute. As arrogant as many of the leaders of the world are, most of them, what do they want to do? Keep on living. They would much rather be here than where they don't know where they're going. So let's be clear. No matter what they're doing, that can't be the major focus of your mind in this moment, because worrying about nuclear war, what is that doing to you? What benefit, what is being produced in your life by worrying about something so big and so vast? We know that you're struggling to pay bills, but watch, the world has you now focused on this big thing. You can't even address the basic principles of your life because you are distracted. Cell phones, internet, all of these things have benefits, and they also can create a deficit in our lives, because when they begin to take the place of the things that produce for us, then they are not supporting us, they are not helping us, they are not healthy for us, whether it is our mind and our mental well-being. I was concerned about my friend's mental well-being, so I just held her in prayer, started to send her a message, but then I realized that's probably not for me today. I don't really need to comment on that post, but what do? I do my work. I do my work and hold her and our world in consciousness. So I said a little while ago that I started studying our universe a little bit and had a great understanding, and then I started watching some of the science about the ideas and theories on how our universe came together. And I really started thinking about the sun. I really started thinking about the fact that in our solar system, there is something about the sun and its focal point in the universe that controls the Earth, Mars, Venus, all of the planets in our solar system are revolving and orbiting around the sun. Why is that? Well, there's the whole story behind it. You can go to YouTube just like I did. But what I want you to focus on is that this one thing that is in the center of our universe, the sun, impacts all of the planets. Its distance from the further out ones means that these ones are very cold. The Earth is in the perfect distance for everything. I mean, it's so precise. Our universe is so precise. If we were a little too close to the sun, life would not have grown here. If we were a little too further away from the sun, life wouldn't grow here. It would be too cold. There is a precision within the universe. So how does this work within your lives? I can predict, probably with a high level of accuracy, whether or not you're getting what you most want out of life based on what is at the center of your world. Because everything else is revolving around it, and the gravitational pull from that is what is expressing in the other planets or life structures of your life. So, if I'm putting my career at the center of my life, then that means what isn't at the center? God, family, my health, my nutrition, my finances. If I put finances at the center of my life and the center of my world, what else is not at the center? Family, friends, God, my health, my spiritual practice. And so what is happening? The sun is here at the center, and it's spinning, and every planet, some of the planets have moons, and those are spinning. And so all of this energy in our universe is moving, 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 moving. So it's constantly moving. You are the same. You have the entire universe reflected in who you are. When you gaze at the sun or at the moon at night, or when you allow yourself to be bathed by the sun rays during the day, you're catching a part of yourself that's being expressed. There are people who just want to be in your orbit because of the joy that you express and radiate, because of the peace that you express and radiate, because of the confidence, the trust that you evoke in them. And in some people, it's a little more nefarious, right? Some people like to be in other people's orbit to take from them. That's fine. You don't ever have to worry about those people because you have placed the right thing, which we will get to, at your center, so no one can take anything that is yours away from you because it is yours. What they get is theirs. And you never have to worry or focus or fear or doubt because we are placing God at the center. We are placing Spirit at the center. We are placing the divine at the center of our life. So what does that look like? I have to have a spiritual practice. I have to have a spiritual practice to guide myself through this world. But I can't be in such a way that I forget that I'm human. I can't abandon my humanity. Reverend Michael was teaching about this morning. You are not here to be so minded about spiritual things that you forget that you are a son or daughter. That you forget that you are a friend, a husband or a wife, that you're a colleague, that somebody wants to cozy up next to you, that somebody needs to hear your voice, that somebody needs a touch from you. You're not here to forget that. So then you look at your life structures. I teach a class called Freedom Through a Structured Life, and it helps you walk through the 8 life structures that you have. Some of those life structures are your ego. It is an expressed part of who you are that you need to stop demonizing. We don't need to demonize the ego. We just need to master it. It exists as a part of our way of being in the world, and it's not separate from us. So we need to come to an understanding of it. Your health is another life structure. You can't maximize your experience of this world if you allow your health to become way down the line important to you. You want to be here for your children. You want to have a long life to be here for your family and friends. So health has to be one of the things in your solar system that is important and that you take on consciously. Your relationships. You know how important your relationships are. And we're not even talking about husbands and wives and lovers and significant others. Your business relationships. Do you have a work environment that is peaceful and harmonious? Do people come to you with garbage and they get more garbage back? Is your work environment healthy and harmonious? Or do people know that you're just not the place for garbage? Sorry, you don't let people dump their trash on your front lawn or in your living room. Don't let them dump it into your consciousness, because that's not what you're here for. Our other life structures is our spirituality. Our spiritual practice must be important. So when we look at, it took me forever to realize why the name of the TV show was called Third Rock from the Sun. I just never thought about it. I just didn't. And then when I did, I was alone and I was glad. And I was like, oh! And it just was, when you laugh at yourself, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But now everybody knows that I did that. But it's probably the least embarrassing thing I've ever done. So when you think about these things and you start looking at your world and your universe, if God is at the center, if your awareness and your growth in spirituality and your spiritual practice is at the center, the way the universe works is after the bang and the explosion that the universe was, because the sun was so powerful, everything else that was in the universe, that was in this particular universe, started moving and being caught up into the gravitational pull of the sun. And it shaped them and it formed them. And so your putting God at the center of your universe, and suddenly your relationships are harnessed and they're becoming the perfect shape and the perfect expression. You don't have drama. You don't have any issues. There's no baby mama drama. There's no daddy mama drama. There's no drama, period. There's nothing but joy and grace and bliss and abundance and ecstasy. And that is actually a way that people can live. You can lose something very valuable to you and it not lose you. You don't have to lose your stuff every time something happens. There's enough road rage out there happening. We don't need any more. So we can get into car accidents. We can have a tough accident where we lose our leg. And you see these people that are out here. The young girl several years ago who lost her arm, surfer, out in the ocean, shark took her arm. She's like one of the happiest people in the world. She's still surfing. She's now a speaker. She had never lost her arm. She wouldn't be out in the world transforming lives. Now, I don't want you to have to lose your arm to transform your life, but you can not be limited by what happens to your body. We are not the body. The body is the vessel that we use to move through this world. We are not simply our finances, but finances are a tool that we utilize to affect this world and to manifest our lives. People are getting blessings upon blessings upon blessings upon blessings everywhere they go and everything they do because of how they walk through the world. So what are you placing at the center of your world? Not a rhetorical question. What are you going to place at the center of your world? What are you going to do today that's different? If you place God at the center and you have an engaged practice, no one can take anything from you. You are coming into a greater realization of the power that you are, and never, 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 never do you ever have to have a bad day. There can be all kinds of things that are happening. And I don't have to have a bad day. There are all sorts of things that unfold, no matter what's going on with our children, no matter what's going on with our family, no matter what's going on with our government, no matter what's going on with the governments overseas. My life is joy, grace, harmony, bliss, ecstasy, power, growth, transformation, transcendence, liberation, which is the theme of the month at Soul Center, where you are not hemmed, hamstrung, or tied up by anything. You loose yourself and you live a free life because what you have at the center of your awareness is the living presence. You live in an abundant universe that supports the highest expression of who and what you are, and your life is something that you never dreamed of because you're not doing the dreaming. You're receiving the dream for your life from the almighty, all-loving, always providing, living, loving presence that you can call Abba, that you can call Mother, Father, God, that you can just call my friend, because I live in a friendly universe, and if I have some adversity, if I have some challenges, that's just today, that's just this moment, but my perspective and my consciousness and the peace that I have in the midst of it all cannot be taken away, because it's not from the outside in, it's from the inside out. And I do my work. I live my life. And this world is better. This world is better. This world is better because of how we have our awareness attuned. Right at the center is the living God. Thank you. Yes. For a second. Our ushers are going to come forward. If you received anything on today, this is my invitation to you. Soul Center has been around for 3 years now, going on its 4th year. And it's a place that we're coming together and we're calling our community. If you're a visitor here and you're a guest, today this is your community. And we receive you here. Our hearts are open to you here. This can be a place that you call home. And so as you prepare your offering and your love gift and your donation and contribution, you know that you are supporting the expansion of this facility. Over there, they have a vision of what a sanctuary and what a Soul Center OC building and structure would look like. Here, we have the vision for classes and growth of practitioners. We have students that drive from Orange County all the way into Culver City to take classes for their own spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment. Think about that. You are a part of such a small percentage of people that are consciously choosing to develop themselves from the inside out. And so as the ushers go out into the congregation now, we know that you're giving your best in appreciation and gratitude for what Soul